Hello, hello. Welcome to the live stream. Today is day 2 of my How to Draw live stream. Today we're going to be covering some more basics of drawing. This is going to be very, very rudimentary stuff, but very important stuff because everything that comes after is, kind of based on what I'm going to go over today. Let's harken back to yesterday. We learned that a cube, I say cube a lot, I'm sorry, it's unavoidable in this subject matter. So if we have a square, we talked yesterday about having a square and then plotting a shape on that square and then turning that into a 3D shape. So what we want to do is think about curves in the same way. So here's a square, and if we have a circle, I'm going to struggle to draw a circle here because circles are difficult to draw. If we think about putting a circle into the square, what we want to think about is where's the center of the circle. I'm going to put it right in the middle of the square just to keep this simple. And then I want to think about, okay, where is the circle going to touch this square? Well, it's going to touch it in the middle of each of these places right here. Each side of the square, right in the middle. So if I were to draw a curve from here to here, it would go something like that. Now this is hard stuff, so if you're following along and you're trying to do it, don't be surprised if it's a little wonky. That's all right. You can see mine's a little wonky. Hands were not really evolved to do this. We're making our hands do something they're not evolved to do, so it's a little weird. That's not a great circle, but you get the point. So basically it touches here, 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 and here. So if we take that idea and now we apply it to our good old-fashioned cube. Let's draw a cube here. Oh man, you have to be okay with drawing cubes if you want to draw, because you're going to do it a lot. But the good part about doing it a lot is you get good at it. There we go. Oh, come on, line, get in there. Come on, line. There we go. You guys can't see, but off camera, I am actually using a ruler to do this stuff, just because it comforts me. I like using rulers. Some people shy away from rulers, but I don't. I think they're awesome. Okay, so there's kind of a rough cube. Okay, so what we're talking about is taking this shape right here and applying it to this cube. So if we look at just one square, we can find the middle of each side right here and here and here and here. And from that, now that we're in a 3D space, it's a little harder to find this spot, which is always good to know about, the center of the cylinder. But if we were to imagine a line going right along here, and a line going right along here connecting these two dots, boom, there's the center of the square. So we can still find that. We can plot it out basically on our square. So there we go, we found it. So now the idea is just like over here where we connected these points with a curve, same thing, except now we're kind of doing it with respect to the 3D square. And if you thought this was a little wonky and hard to do just out of the box, this is even worse. So this is hard. This takes practice to get good at it. I have tons and tons of practice, and you can see me struggling with it to make it look good. But we're going to get into some ways to make it look better shortly, so don't worry. So there's one. There's that. Now let's say that I wanted to turn this into a cylinder, right? It's a pretty common object. What we would do is basically look at this back square back here, and if we imagine that we can see the back through it like it's transparent, all we do is we do this right here, but we do it again. Here's this side, this side, this side, and this side. From that, we can find the center, which should be about right there. And finding the center is not necessary for what we're doing right now, but it is good to kind of just in your mind say, okay, here's this is the center of the circle, so it, like a pizza pie, radiates out from this spot. Like, to me, that just helps to think about what we're doing here. So always good to kind of find that center of the circle so you know where the curve center radiates out from. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go and draw this again, and I'm gonna come down here, and I'm gonna meet up with that one. Now, I'm not gonna draw the back because we're drawing a cylinder, and we're not gonna see that. As a matter of fact, we're not gonna see a lot of this. I'm just gonna go ahead and erase out of here all the stuff that we're not gonna see because we're drawing a can, like a can of tuna or soup or something, on its side. Now, the lines that would connect this cylinder should be parallel to this right here. So this line right here will be parallel right here. And that is, oh, come on, draw, there you go. That's the edge of our can. Ooh, get in there, there it goes. That drew that time. So that's the edge of our can. So that's how you figure out, well, where do the edges go? Which direction do those lines go in? They go parallel to this line right here, in this case. And it changes from case to case. But right now, in the angle, the way that we're drawing the cylinder, this is what the parallel is. So just clean that up a little bit. So now you can see I've drawn a cylinder inside of a box. So there we go. We have drawn a cylinder laying on its side. What is this? This is tuna. Yay. So we got a can of tuna. That's nice. So that's basically the process of taking a cube and turning it into a cylinder. And this applies to many different shapes. Many different shapes. Pretty much any shape that has a curve you can plot out in this way. What I'm going to talk about now is a good method, but this is really kind of tedious. So let me get rid of some of this stuff. Okay, so this method that I'm going to show you now is, like I said, it's a little tedious, but the idea is sound, and I don't recommend this for everything. If you're trying to do a highly accurate, highly technical drawing, yes, absolutely do this. But if you understand the concept of it, you can apply it in different ways that's helpful. And even just having it in your mind when you're working on things is also helpful. So the idea is this. Let's say we're going to go back to our square. We're always sort of coming back to squares, aren't we? So if we have a square, we can define a curve, an accurate curve on a square by drawing straight lines. Now, anybody can get a ruler and you can draw a bunch of straight lines. So here's how we do this. Let's say that what we want is a curve that comes down along this line, right? But we want it to be pretty accurate. That's actually pretty nice. But we want it to be accurate, okay? So that's the idea. That's what we want to achieve. So here's what I'm going to do. Get that out of the way. If you take a ruler and you measure out ticks along this line, like say every 1/4 inch or so, depending on what your scale is, or something, you can measure out little dots all the way around here, but they have to be even. They have to be even. So say every 1/4 inch or so, something like that, and then every 1/4 inch or so, something like this. What you can do is you can draw a line from the furthest away point here to the closest point on this way. So furthest here, closest here. That's what I'm going to do. Show you guys. Draw a straight line. There we go. Okay, so now what I want to do is go to the second one, which is right here, and I want to connect it to the second one right here. And we're going to do it here. Line. Guess what we're going to do next? The third one to the third one. Like, remember me saying that this was tedious? So now we're going to do the fourth one to the fourth one. So what is it that we're doing here? We're actually using straight lines to project a very accurate curve. If you measure out your little tick marks really accurately, this would be a very accurate curve. So there we go. Now what I've done is I've plotted out a curve using straight lines. So now I could trace this curve right here into my finished drawing and get a pretty accurate curve. Here's where things get interesting. If we can do it on a square like this, oh, then we can also do it on, can anybody guess? Anybody guess? No? We can also do it on a cube. And what we want to do is apply this idea up here to this cube down here. Now this sounds super tedious. You're like, whoa, whoa. Now it's different. It's not squared. It's not flat anymore. How do I use my ruler to go and do little tick marks every 1/4 of an inch? Because if you do tick marks 1/4 of an inch here, they're not going to line up with tick marks 1/4 of an inch here. Try it. It won't work because this line is longer than that line. So if it was 1/4 inch here, it might need to be a little less than a 1/4 inch there. That's not really a good way to do this. So here's what I suggest. What you do is you look at this line right here that goes from here to here, and you find the middle. Remember, we did this a minute ago. You find the middle. Then let's see. Oh, actually, you know what? I don't want to do that this way. I'm going to do that over here. You find the middle. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this line right here, and I'm going to find the middle. I'm going to just look and say, okay, I want to find the middle. That's about right there, or maybe right there. Just a little bit off. So find the middle. Middle of each, middle of each. Now what I want to do is I want to find between this spot right here and this corner, find the middle again. So that's right there. In between this corner and here, I want to find the middle again. Now it's easy visually. You can kind of look and see that's the middle. Between here and the corner, find the middle again. Between here and the corner, find the middle again. So you're not using a ruler to say, oh, here's a 1/4 of an inch, there's an 1/8 of an inch, and all of that tedious stuff. This is a little less tedious because all you're doing is visually looking and saying, give me the middle. Okay, so now if we were to take this idea that we did here, all of these little connecting lines, you do that, but you do it on the side of this cube. So look at that. We now have this wedge kind of 1/4 shape. Now, you remember we made the can of tuna earlier. Remember how we did that? We basically did the same thing in the back that we did in the front. We find the middle, we find the middle. We find the middle here, the middle here, and the middle here. Now, as you get a little better, what you might do is actually use less hash marks. The more hash marks you use, the more little ticks, the more accurate the curve is going to be. But here you can say I've used far less, and I'm going to show you that this will actually work. What I'm going to do, I'm going to actually go all the way to the corner with this one, and then here to here, and then here to here. Oh, come on, line. There you go. And then here to here. Back to the corner, the other corner. Now you can see here that I have a bit of a straight line, and there's a little angle, and then a bit of straight, and then a bit of straight, and a bit of straight. But I can still use that to see and draw a curve. So that's what I'm going to do in this case. Let's come back up here to the above the tracing paper level. And what I can do is use this it's a lower resolution plot than this one. But I can still use that to guide my hand in drawing a fairly accurate curve, right? And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to use the one we did a minute ago to draw that accurate curve. So now let's go ahead and finish out this shape. Use a roller there. Use a roller. What have we made here? A piece of cheese or something. There. Give it a side and back that's straight. So now, if I take away the underdrawing, boom, right there, that's what we have. You know, here's an example of how we can expand this alongside the kind of boxy drawing that we were doing yesterday. I'm going to continue these lines down like so, and I'm going to put a new cube underneath of here, basically like this, and right about there. There we go. So now you're like, well, you just added a cube, but sure, this is how you can build up objects. So what are we actually going to be drawing here? What I'm doing is basically making an underdrawing for something that we see in everyday life, or at least most people do. What I'm going to do now is basically turn this into a mailbox. Pretty common item that people see all the time, just by using these other cubes that I've already drawn, which are pretty easy. We learned how to do that last time. Pretty easy stuff, the cubes. I could draw some legs like that. I can draw the bottom of a mailbox like this. The bottom here is not really the point. We're just trying to show you that there are practical uses to this. You know, an object like a mailbox has that funny top, right? And it's like this. So there we go. We've drawn a mailbox. Kind of mail. It's a Happy Mail delivery place. Happy Mail. But we haven't really drawn that, you know, the spot on mailboxes where you put the letters in. Yeah. So basically, if you've seen a mailbox and you know they have that weird door thing at the top, well, how do we plot that out on here accurately? So, okay, so we have the curves. We're going to have parallel lines to these curves. Now you can plot these out. I'm not going to, because you guys have seen how tedious that can be. But any line that's on the front face of this should be the same as this one right here, right? So it should be coming along. I'm trying to do a little dotted line. It should follow that curve like that, and like this, and, well, I'm not doing this very well, but you get the idea. They follow the curve. They should be the same kind of curve, right? So this would allow us to then put in the weird door that these things have. Go back here. So it would be something like, you know, it would come down like this. It would come down like this, following that same curve. But then these lines are not curves, obviously. These are straight lines. So this would be parallel to this one. Like that, and then this one up here would be somewhat parallel to that one. Granted, I drew this in perspective, which I probably should not have done because it might be confusing to you guys. And then those doors, let's see, what do they look like? They're kind of like back here, and then they kind of come down and meet this like that. So now we have this weird thing in here, and then the handle, I'll just draw a quick handle. There we go. So then the handle would be up there, and that's where you put your mail in, something like that. So that's a fairly complex object that we've just broke down using this pretty simple method. Granted, this is a lot of work to draw all these lines, but if you're saying to yourself, hey, I don't want to draw a mailbox that doesn't look good, I want to draw a mailbox that does look good, this is a good way to do it. So here, let's turn that off for a second and we can appreciate the mailbox. Ah, look at it. It's nice and 3D. Okay, so I've come, basically, that's the end of today's lesson in terms of how to draw stuff. If people want to stick around, I'm going to do a drawing session where I'm going to actually employ some of these methods onto a drawing that I might do. So please feel free to stick around and watch. You know, I am doing this live stream every day at 10 o'clock, so long as quarantine continues, and maybe on past that. We'll see how it goes. And so please feel free to tune in again. If you're going to take off now, please feel free to tune back in. I am NinjaJ03 on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So feel free to follow me on any of those platforms that you might want to.